So one of the things that happened this past week, which was pretty fascinating, in fact, it just happened like just a few days ago, is California's Senator Alex Padilla got himself introduced to the pavement by federal agents. And I got to tell you, unbelievable times we live in. And there's this narrative that that he's trying to project, and that he's getting a lot of support, like the ACLU, the Democratic Party, Senator Booker, all these different Democrats have stepped up to basically say, "Gee, look at what Trump is doing. You know, Trump is arresting a senator simply for asking a question," and none of that's true. He wasn't even arrested. Number one. Number two.
He wasn't just asking a question.
He wasn't just asking a question.
No.
So let's show that first video. This is the statement that
and so I began
Padilla made.
to ask a question. I was almost immediately forcibly removed from the room. I was forced to the ground, and I was handcuffed. I was not arrested. I was not detained. I will say this. If this is how this administration responds to a senator with a question, if this is how the Department of Homeland Security responds to a senator with a question, you can only imagine what they're doing to farm workers, to cooks, to day laborers, out in the Los Angeles community and throughout California.
Pause it so we can actually see it. Okay, now, first off, oh, he's such a victim. Oh my gosh. Oh goodness. Whatever have they done to him? But I'll bet if you see that and that's all you see, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, what's going on?
100%.
You know, the president is arresting senators. Okay, but before we switch away and I show you the video of actually what happened and not the lies that he's telling.
Of his question?
Yeah, of his.
Right.
Look at what look at how he's dressed right now. He's wearing a black jacket with no markings. That's not like an official I'm a U.S. Senator jacket. He's not in a suit. He has no name tags, no name badges, nothing to indicate who he is at all. And this is the exact outfit he was wearing when all this went down. That's number one. So let's watch. This next video is actually from the podium where Kristi Noem was actually giving her speech, and you're going to see how he interrupted her when from the angle of her giving a speech. So go ahead.
That this governor and that this mayor have placed on this country and what they have tried to insert into this city. So I want to say thank you to every single person that has been able to do this. Also, I want to talk specifically to the rioters and to the politicians in Los Angeles.
Half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your.
I also want to talk about specifically how many of our ICE agents have been docked.
That if you're watching the camera, focused on Kristi Noem, and she's talking, was she taking questions?
Nope.
Nope. He barged into the room and starts basically trying to talk over her as if he is some kind of king. Okay. And now let's show exactly, and we're going to pause this next video a couple times. So this is from the angle of being behind this Alex Padilla character.
Guys,
First you're going to see him.
Sir,
He barges into the room.
hands up, hands up. I'm sending.
Okay, stop for a sec. Okay, he's got no security with him. He's got no entourage with him. He's got no staff with him. He's in there completely alone, dressed the way that we talked about earlier. There's nobody knows who he is. The other thing is that guy facing him right there, those 3 or 4 people surrounding him, that's federal security. Kristi Noem is actually giving a talk on how dangerous it is in L.A. and how law enforcement has been targeted and how the riots have happened in L.A. That's the talk she's giving. And then some guy who doesn't identify himself, who's totally alone, who's dressed, completely, inconspicuously, he's not dressed like a U.S. senator, starts shouting and pushing and shoving his way. Security tries to, contain him. At this point right here, any reasonable person, anybody who's not trying to do some kind of ridiculous political stunt, would put their hands up and say, hey, wait. Here's who I am. Let's step out in the hall. I just want to ask a question. I apologize for not identifying myself. Any reasonable person would realize that what they are doing is escalating the situation and that they're not going about it the proper way. So keep going.
Alex Padilla. I have questions for the secretary.
That's the first time he's even said his name.
Half a dozen violent
They don't know who Alex Padilla is. They don't know who Alex Padilla is. They don't know if he is, in fact, Alex Padilla. All they know is they have a guy who's pushing towards the Secretary of Homeland Security, talking over her, basically lunging at the podium. That's all they know.
Pushing past her security. That's concerning to any security person. Like, those guys are just trying to do their job of protecting the one speaking.
Right.
And I will say, a senator should know there's decorum and there's rules. There's ways to ask questions. There's ways to do that properly, and there's a time and appropriate place and way to do it. And he knew what to do, and he didn't do it.
And any security professional would look at what these guys did and say, yeah, that's right.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's not like, it's not like he was standing there calmly asking a question and the Trump administration called down and said, hey, security, we want you to beat this guy up. Mm-hmm. That's completely ludicrous. All right, keep rolling here.
You're rotating on your hands off.
No attempt for him to de-escalate at all. He's continuing to push and shove.
On the ground.
They
Hands
still
on
don't
your
know
back.
who he is.
Hands on your back.
If you let my hands go, I put behind my back.
All right. Cool. One hand. Lay flat. Lay flat.
Other hand, sir.
They're completely professional. I got to tell you, I'm not a big fan of siding with police officers. I've been very critical of police officers. I definitely don't like police officers.
Use excessive force.
Excessive force. And they didn't do any of that.
No.
They didn't do any of that. By the way, they let him go. And after Kristi Noem was done, she actually spent 15, 20 minutes talking to him. And then he goes out and gives this horrible, dishonest press conference. And I just think it's ridiculous.
The fact that he almost cried in the press conference is so funny to me. Like, he really had to dig deep and work hard to try to conjure up fake tears about his supposed unjust experience here that looks completely justified to me.
Completely justified. The only weird extreme thing that happened in that series of videos was him barging into a press conference and lunging at the Secretary of Homeland Security while she was talking about what a dangerous situation they were in.
Yeah.
Unreal. And the fact that like I said, there's organizations like the ACLU and the Democratic Party and some of these others, I can't believe they're coming to his defense. There's nothing to justify his behavior here. The guy, this is absolutely disgraceful. And everything he said in his press conference was a lie, or at least an exaggeration, and the whole thing was clearly a political stunt. So, hey, thanks for watching Gun Owners Radio. I hope you loved that clip. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and follow us on social media, and check out our website at gunownersradio.com.